Conversion cost is the cost of converting raw and packing materials into finished products. It is considered as a controllable cost owing to the components of fixed costs, variable costs, and depreciation. Traditionally, the conversion cost has always been measured as a percentage of your net proceeds of sales. But more recently, the conversion cost per kilogram or per ton is attracting a lot more attention, and rightly so as well, because it is the cost of producing a finished product. Now, the cost of converting a product is generally controllable, as even if you think about the variable parts, the labor wages, the usage of it, and the amount of overheads necessary is in fact really controllable. And even the fixed costs that you incur in your plant or in your factory, really speaking, are controllable. Depreciation, however, on the other hand, to some extent is not entirely controllable, as fixed assets are procured for a lengthy period of time, and they have to be depreciated. But again, if you dig a little deeper, you will realize that depreciation too is a necessary expense that needs to be incurred to produce a product. Now, one can and should really make a decision of whether to manufacture or whether to purchase it from outside. Now, these decisions need to be made in the context of whether it is cheaper to make it in-house, or and slap on the depreciation, or outsource the production entirely. Now also, if there are multiple equipments that can produce the same product, the choice of producing it on one particular specific equipment is a controllable choice. So you could decide to use a line or a machine that is much older than a new machine, because a new machine, obviously having a higher network value, would absorb a lot more depreciation. And thus, depreciation of that equipment could be considered as a controllable expense. Now, financially speaking, depreciation is indeed a non-cash expense. You don't pay out cash for depreciation, it's just an accounting treatment. But remember that when you capitalize the equipment, it must have been paid out of the capital or through a loan for which you would have a cash bearing. Now, depreciation is an allowable expense as well that can be deducted from your tax calculations. And moreover, it is a realistic value of the wear and tear of the machinery or the equipment that you use over the years. And without this particular capital investment, it would probably not even have been possible to produce the product anyway. So these decisions actually indicates that depreciation too is actually a controllable expense. Now, the cost of capital has to be recovered from the products that you're selling if positive equity is to be generated. Therefore, now this can also be considered as an overhead, very much like, say for instance, the Finance and Control Department or the Human Resources Department, or even the factory management, for instance. Now, if you take an example, let's take an example of the finance and control department. Now, really speaking, what value does it add to the production of a product? Nothing. But without this particular department, can you even imagine the many functions that would simply not be possible, that would simply not be realizable? And so it is kind of a necessary expense that needs to be slapped on to the cost of the product in the hope that selling it may recover some of these fixed costs. Likewise, if you think about it, now depreciation is indeed a non-cash expense, I admit. But this can affect the overall cost profile of the product. And thus, it is essential that it is also included in the cost of conversion. So just in summary, the cost of conversion is the cost of converting your raw and packaging materials into a finished product, and it includes your fixed costs, your variable costs, and very importantly, depreciation.